I am not going to protect you or anyone else from my truth anymore. You have always believed that your truth is the truth. You validate your hardness, your anger, and your beliefs by attributing your words and actions to your definition of God. As long as I can remember, you have been quick to demolish any perceived flaw or rebellion you found in me. If I was different than you expected me to be, I was disturbingly wrong. The fundamental fact of my unique personhood seemed to threaten you and continues to frighten you. You continue to freely express your dissatisfaction with me in the name and intent of love. In many ways, I am exactly the child that you raised. I am strong. I am curious. I am creative. I strive to do good. I forget where I put my keys, and I have a tendency to trail off in the middle of sentences exactly as you do. Yet when you look at me, you are heartbroken for reasons that seem arbitrary to me. But do not mistake me. I understand the deep tragedy you feel. I know what it is you believe. Remember, I believed it. I haven't forgotten the stakes. I haven't forgotten anything. I do not fault you for holding beliefs that I do not hold. I do fault you for believing that you have a monopoly on the truth. I do take issue with your belief that you and those like you alone speak any language we're speaking at all. And you see it as your right and duty to hold me accountable to what you perceive as God. But who holds you accountable to God? You believe the world needs you to tell them where they went wrong while you stand alone, correct and blameless. God is correct and blameless, not me. I can hear you saying, you aren't defying me, you are defying God. But who decides who God is in that construct? You do. You decide. This is where you just believe beyond reason. And that makes sense to you, but understandably, it does not make sense to everyone. Still, you hold on to these premises as if they were wide planks, bashing them into the other person as if you could force yourself to stick your particular plank of choice in their eye. You shamelessly bludgeon your chosen target with the violence of your version of the law so that they can receive your version of the gospel. You do this whether or not that person has consented to listen or whether they have expressed any interest in receiving the sermon you are compelled to give them. To be clear, I do not consent. I do not find life or goodness or truth in that way of being. As my thoughts land between us, after all of this time, I have this metaphor forming in my mind. I am not sure how it will seem to you, but I want you to hear it. There once was a gardener who planted a seed that it would grow a beautiful rose. He vowed to love and cherish the rose as long as he lived. He tenderly watered it and cared for it. Before his eyes, a seedling sprouted and grew. He built a strong bed for it. He constructed a shade to protect it from the heat. The seedling grew with all her might. As the plant grew, she became unruly. Her stem became thick and woody, and roots winding to the edges of the garden, bursting the carefully laid flower beds. Her leaves pushed through the cracks in the carefully hung shade. The gardener was alarmed. Without delay, he pulled out his shears and swiftly pruned back the reaching branches. But the rose grew again, as young plants do, with increasing vigor. "My rose will die," cried the gardener, "unless I can show it how to grow." He took up his sharp shears and he pruned and he pruned and he pruned, hacking at the offending stems. "The branches are not my rose," he asserted, and strengthened his resolve. Still, the plant kept growing. Desperate for life, she stretched her branches away from the gardener despite his urging pleas. He watched dismayed as she swept away from him, out of the garden into the terrifying blue of the sky. In his grief, he wrote letters to the rose, begging. "I love you," he pleaded. "Come back to me." Even if the plant wanted to go back to before, the gardener's prayer was an impossible ask. The rose is not a rose at all. They are a tree, a magnificent oak. I grew differently from you, and that caused you pain. In many ways, our pain isn't so different than the separation that happens between every parent and child. Can you accept that I am not yours? Will you allow yourself to see past the definition of life for me? Will you see that divinity and goodness and life exists beyond your garden barricades? Can you meet me, know me, and love me here and now? The last time we spoke, you told me that it would have been easier for you if I had died. It would have been easier for you to accept my death than to accept a life that you didn't understand. If you feel that way, then grieve me. I will not be able to have a relationship with you if you can only give me your deadly beliefs and your pain. They're not mine to hold. I am alive. I I am so alive, and I am whole, and I am beautifully and wonderfully made exactly as I am. Whether or not you allow yourself to love me, really love me, is entirely up to you. With bravery and conviction,